She discovered her $2 rental millionaire boyfriend was the hidden love she had rejected before. Sarah Jennings brushed the sleep from her eyes, the early sun spilling through the window, warming her face. She sighed, pushing aside thoughts of dreams unfulfilled and drawing in her sketchbook instead of serving pancakes in the diner. Her mother's labored breathing filled the small room like an unwelcome reminder of the heavy weight on her shoulders. She rolled out of bed, fueled by the love for the woman who raised her, driven by a need to bring color into their gray lives. The diner. The clinking of silverware and the hum of chatter formed a familiar symphony. Sarah was the maestro, orchestrating orders and comfort for the town's hungry faces. But amidst the laughter, glimpses of her faded dreams stained everything. With every smile she offered, shadows lingered, whispering about an artist career that never bloomed, leaving her heart restless. Then Jake walked in, with tousled hair and jeans that looked well-worn but not flashy. He took a seat at the booth in the corner. His smile was genuine, something that caught Sarah off guard. As she approached with the same $2 breakfast he ordered daily, she felt a flutter in her chest. He was worlds apart from Tyler, her high school crush who now wore a tailored suit as he successfully dominated the town's contracting scene. Tyler's charm made her heart race, but Jake's warmth felt like home. When she looked at Tyler, she felt hope that maybe one day she could have the life she wanted. But every time she smiled at Jake, it felt like she brushed against something deeper, something real. The contrast left her confused. The whispers of townsfolk judged her heart. Their eyes tallied worth and status like they were scores in a game she didn't want to play yet couldn't escape. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. As her mother's health deteriorated, that decision seemed less about dreams and more about survival. Her mother's comfort was priority. It always had been. But Jake kept appearing like an anchor during turbulent waves. When he brushed past her in the diner, looking so full of kindness, she questioned her own worth against the perceived ideals of success. The annual charity fundraiser. Tension crackled when Jake's true identity shattered her illusions. The revelation that he was a self-made millionaire whisked through the crowd like wildfire, leaving Sarah reeling. A whirlwind of emotions tugged at her heart. Instincts to judge, yet yearning for connection held her back. Could this man, who sat across from her day after day, battling the same trivialities of life, be the hidden love that glimmered beneath superficial norms? With Jake standing before her, she felt close to breaking. The distinction between dreams and reality blurred like the sketches on her faded napkins. As she locked eyes with him, she was engulfed by a wave of confusion, curiosity, and a significant pull towards a future she never anticipated. What if love wasn't about the perfect facade? Could it instead lie in honest connection? As she stood there, heart pounding, the air thick with unspoken possibilities, one question lingered. Would she finally embrace the love she had once walked away from or continue to chase after the empty ideal she believed she deserved? The charity fundraiser rolled on with laughter and clinking glasses, but all Sarah could feel was the dissonance in her heart. Jake, calm and composed, seemed to be the only steady ship in the storm of her emotions. He flashed her a smile, a warm spark in the crowded room, but she couldn't return it. Instead, she felt the weight of judgment fighting against her instincts. Is it true? She finally asked, her voice barely above a whisper, but the question felt like a thunderclap in the basement of her heart. Jake's gaze softened, but she could see the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. It's complicated, Sarah. He shifted a little closer, a shield against their bubbling surroundings. I never meant to keep it from you. I wanted you to see me for who I am, not what I have. Yet there it was, the discrepancy between their worlds. She could almost hear the whispers, the subtle snickers in the air around them. Your life, it's not real, she said, trying to comprehend a reality she barely brushed against in her dreams. All this time I thought you were just normal? Jake interjected, a hint of frustration creeping into his voice. You think the money defines me? Defines us? With every word, her defenses began to crumble. I guess I do. Maybe I even wanted to. The honesty slammed into her as she grappled with her own insecurities. What if she had missed her chance at happiness because she let society dictate worth? In a moment of vulnerability, memories flooded her thoughts, the laughter, the kindness, those quiet evenings sketching in the diner. Jake was real. His presence brought warmth to her dull days. But what if that connection wasn't enough for the world outside? Sarah, he said, reaching for her hand. This doesn't have to change anything unless you want it to. Staring into his earnest eyes, she felt the distance of her dreams, the abstract ideals of success and love, all melting away. But I'm scared that I can't handle your world. I fought so hard to protect what little I have. Don't you see? He gently squeezed her hand, the contact igniting an undeniable spark. You're the one I want. You're who I love. It's not about money. It's about us, about building something real together. The truth hung in the air, shimmering and fragile, like the glass chandelier above them. Sarah felt a magnetic pull towards Jake, but the voices in her head raged louder. Could she surrender her uncertainties? Could she risk it all for a love that didn't fit into a convenient box? The gathered crowd surged around them, their laughter mocking her decision. She took a deep breath, searching for clarity amidst the chaos. Jake, I need time to think about everything. He nodded, releasing her hand with reluctance. I understand, he said softly, but just know, I'll be here whenever you're ready. As he stepped back into the throng, Sarah felt an empty ache in his absence. She stood frozen, clenching the hand he had just held, her heart a tumult of what could have been. The fundraiser blurred into the background, a world of noise and color fading away as she wrestled with her thoughts. The questions swirled like angry winds inside her. What would happen if she chose him? What would she have to sacrifice? And why did the fear of following her heart haunt her so much more than the thought of leaving it behind? As shame and courage fought for space in her chest, she glanced into the crowd, searching. What if the bravest choice was to embrace love despite the uncertainty it brought? The thought lingered with her as she stepped outside, away from the raucous laughter and into the cool night. She looked up at the stars scattering the sky, filled with an unshakable resolve that grew within her. But a new conflict brewed. Could she truly step into a life she had pushed away for so long? Uncertain yet hopeful, Sarah realized she stood at a precipice, and the next move would shape the rest of her story. Little did she know, the course of her life was about to shift in ways she could never imagine. The crisp night air enveloped Sarah as she stepped outside, her mind racing. She took a moment, standing alone on the sidewalk, the sounds of the fundraiser muffled behind her like a distant memory. The stars twinkled above, carefree and unbothered, much like the love Jake openly offered her. Her heart still echoed with the warmth of his intentions, yet uncertainty pulled at her from every direction. Would she really take a leap into the unknown? The risk of embracing a world so different from her own terrified her. What if she lost herself in it, too? As she navigated her thoughts, a distant voice called her name, rippling through the fog of her hesitation. It was Amy, her childhood friend from the diner, weaving through the lingering guests. The years had aged them both, but it was comforting to see a familiar face. Sarah, there you are. Amy's eyes sparkled in the moonlight, genuinely thrilled to see her. I was looking everywhere for you. You okay? Sarah hesitated, the weight of the evening pressing down. I'm fine, just contemplating life choices, you know? Life choices? Amy smirked, her hands on her hips. That sounds serious. Is it about your millionaire boyfriend? The word hung in the air, light-hearted yet penetrating. Sarah felt the blush creep into her cheeks as she took in Amy's teasing posture. I didn't say he was a millionaire, she retorted, a nervous laugh escaping her lips. Please, Amy almost rolled her eyes. We know he's loaded, but is he loaded in heart too? Or just finances? That question pierced through the playful banter, and before Sarah could respond, Another voice chimed in. It was Mark, another friend from their diner days, his brow furrowed with sincerity. Seriously, Sarah. We've seen how he looks at you. There's something real there. You're just scared. It felt like the universe conspired for her to confront her fears openly. She sighed, flicking her gaze between them. I don't know, it's complicated. Complicated? What's complicated is skipping a chance at happiness because of judgment. If he loves you, that's what matters, Mark said, his tone confident. The simplicity of his words struck a chord deep within her. She found herself staring at the ground, wrestling with the truth they laid bare. A flutter of hope danced in her chest, but the insecurity lingered. Sarah, Amy said, softer now, her smile fading into concern. You are so much more than your circumstances. You deserve to be happy. The warmth in her friend's voice eased some of the tension she held. Maybe they were right. What if she could redefine her boundaries? What if loyalty mattered over a bank account? Oh my God! Sarah blurted out, a spark igniting in her eyes. What if I regret not giving this a real chance? Then give it a shot. Amy encouraged, stepping closer. You're strong enough to choose your path. Just trust your heart. Each heartbeat echoed in her chest, louder than the chatter from inside. Sarah felt the weight of their encouragement lift her, a breath of fresh air under her wings. Okay, I will. I'll talk to Jake, I'll really think about this. Now you're thinking straight. Mark smiled, clapping her on the back like a supportive brother. But even as she spoke those words, another voice crept in. What if her newfound courage crumbled? What if she risked everything only to find that Jake was just like the others? Shaking off the doubts, Sarah straightened her shoulders. She took a deep breath, filled with uncertainty yet ripe with possibility. The thrill of what lay ahead sent a pulse of excitement through her. She had to find Jake, to dive back into that space of intimacy they shared. And just as she turned to head back inside, a figure stepped out, leaning against the doorframe with a wary smile. It was Jake, looking for her. Her heart leaped, but curiosity twisted into knots. Would he understand? Could he guide her through the chaos within? Hey, I was looking for you, he said softly, noticing her anxious stance. You okay? As Sarah met his gaze, the night sky spread above them, full of uncharted paths and stars that felt closer than ever. I think I'm ready, Jake. But before she could voice the words spinning in her mind, something in the room caught her eye. A figure walked in, silhouetted against the lights, a face she thought she'd left behind. And suddenly, everything shifted again. The figure stepped from the shadows, and Sarah's breath hitched in her throat. It was Amanda, the girl Sarah thought she had put behind her, her first love. The last time they had crossed paths, Sarah had turned her back on a heart that had whispered promises of adventure and authenticity. Amanda looked older, yet her aura remained captivating. Long hair danced with the breeze, and her green eyes were just as inviting. Sarah? She breathed, a mix of surprise and nostalgia sparking in the space between them. Sarah's heart hitched in confusion. Memories spilled forth. Stolen glances, shared laughter, and a bond that eclipsed all others. Why was she here now, of all moments? The implications rushed over her like a wave she didn't know how to swim against. Jake shifted beside Sarah, casting a curious gaze at the mysterious arrival. You know her? He asked, frowning just slightly. Yeah. Sarah stammered, grappling with the emotional turbulence that Amanda's presence stirred within her. We used to be close. Close? Amanda laughed softly, but there was an edge to it, bitterness, or maybe regret. Is that how we're labeling it now? No, Sarah insisted, her voice barely above a whisper. It was more than that. You know it was. The weight of their shared past pressed upon her, making it hard to breathe. Jake's expression turned bewildered, and Sarah could feel the walls of her world closing in. Amanda took a step closer, her gaze piercing through Sarah's defenses. So you're with him now? The question hung heavy. The rich guy, the perfect life. Did you ever consider what we had? Each word felt like a dagger, sharp and piercing. Sarah wrestled with a deluge of feelings, a tempest of guilt and nostalgia battled against what she had built with Jake. Could she really redefine everything she had thought she wanted? Maybe that was just an infatuation? Sarah ventured, though the truth tasted sour on her tongue. Infatuation? Amanda's eyes widened. You can't just erase our connection like that. It was real, and it still is. Jake shifted again, the tension palpable. Is there something I'm missing here? He asked, crossing his arms defensively. The confidence he exuded moments ago now gave way to uncertainty. The moment stretched, heavy with unsaid words and deep-seated emotions. It shocked Sarah how easily Amanda's presence reignited feelings she thought she had buried. Memories flood back unbidden, an informality that felt familiar and comforting, yet also frightening. What if I didn't let you go? Amanda's voice softened, her vulnerability cutting through the barriers Sarah had erected. What if I had fought for us? It struck a nerve deep within her, a raw truth that echoed louder than her regrets about her family, her job, and even Jake. What if she had fought harder? What if their love had been worth the risk, the scrutiny? Sarah. Jake's voice broke through her thoughts, echoing her own confusion and fear. What's going on? I need to know. Caught in a whirlpool of decisions, Sarah felt the weight of both friendships unfurling around her. Did she keep walking toward the future Jake represented? Or did she step back into the past with Amanda, a past that held its own kind of promise? She hesitated, uncertain of what to say, caught between worlds that felt starkly different yet impossibly entwined as the silence stretched. Sarah noticed the two people she cared about the most looking at her, waiting for her to decide. The stars above twinkled witnesses to her inner turmoil, and she knew something had to break. Who are you choosing? She thought, an inner voice echoing the painful reality. The realization settled deep in her chest. She was trying to find her way through a fog of emotions, yet every heartbeat resonated with the truth she had to confront. Maybe she began, her voice trembling, I can't choose just yet. But even as she spoke, she felt the soft pull of past affections stirring within her. The people around her felt like anchors, and she could already see where this was leading. What if she didn't choose at all? Maybe it's not about making one choice but understanding what truly makes me whole, she gasped, glancing back at both Amanda and Jake. And as she stood there, the skies above shimmered with endless possibilities, hiding answers she never thought to seek. But deep down, a stirring doubt emerged, relentless in its pursuit. What if the love she thought she wanted was just an illusion? Would she ever dare to unravel the truth? The silence enveloped them like a dense fog, every heart in the space beating in anxious syncopation. Sarah's pulse raced as she tried to decipher the tangled web of emotions weaving through her mind and heart. She glanced at Amanda, whose expression was a mix of vulnerability and defiance. Then, she turned to Jake, who stood waiting, confusion etched on his face, the tension radiating off him like static electricity. Sarah finally whispered, searching for the words that eluded her. You don't understand. It's complicated. Complicated? Amanda echoed, a small laugh escaping her lips, but it was laced with hurt. You've moved on, Sarah. I get that, but it doesn't change what we had. It was real, wasn't it? As she spoke, Sarah felt the ground beneath her shift. Amanda had always had a way of challenging her thoughts, piercing through the pretense she often wore like armor. In a world of certainties presented by Jake, his job, his life, his wealth, Amanda represented everything Sarah had once dared to embrace. Messiness, authenticity, and a love that broke the rules. Look, I know things didn't end the way we wanted them to. Amanda continued, stepping forward, her intensity unyielding. But it doesn't have to stay that way. If we talked, maybe... Talk? Jake interrupted, his voice tight with frustration, interjecting the silence like a sudden storm. About what? Who you were and what you two had. Sarah, is that what you want? To talk about your past with someone who's trying to be a part of your future? The room spun slightly, the weight of Jake's outburst pushing against the fragile bubble Sarah felt herself trapped in. Jake, please. She looked at him, imploring him to understand. It's not that simple. Not that simple? He challenged, running a hand through his hair. You don't get to just pull me into a situation where I'm the new guy against the first love. Either I'm the one you want or I'm not. Sarah. The world felt suddenly vibrant around them. The humming of a distant car, the crickets chirping, and the gentle rustle of leaves. Nature seemed to mock the emotions raging inside her. I thought I was building something real with you. Jake. Sarah finally burst out, her voice filled with desperation. I thought I was over this, over her. She gestured at Amanda. But now all these feelings are swirling like a storm inside me. And I don't know how to make sense of them. Amanda crossed her arms, her expression softening. Maybe you don't have to make sense of it all right now. Maybe just feeling is enough. You don't have to choose immediately, but you have to acknowledge what this is. Yes, right? Jake said begrudgingly, still visibly frustrated but trying to rein in the hurt. I don't want to push you into a choice before you're ready. But you need to figure out what you want, Sarah. For real. A lump formed in Sarah's throat as she took a shaky breath. Two paths lay before her, and the thought of pursuing either made her equally terrified and excited. The weight of expectations rested heavy on her shoulders. What would it mean to go back to Amanda? What would it mean to leave Jake? A tangible future built on new possibilities. Maybe I just need time, she whispered, feeling the truth of it resonate. Amanda nodded slowly, her eyes searching Sarah's for understanding. Take your time. I'm here. I know. Sarah sighed, the pang of grief for their lost moments lacing her words. But I didn't think coming back here would shake me up like this. The air shifted slightly as they each processed the loaded silence that stretched on. It was a moment alive with tension, perspective, and the rawness of an unwritten future. As Sarah's thoughts raced, a flicker of a realization flicked on in her mind. Perhaps the threads of their lives weren't as separable as she once thought. Maybe what I need to discover is what love truly means to me, she murmured to herself, her heart whispering possibilities that were yet to unfold. Just then, a thought broke through the haze. What if the love she thought she wanted was just an echo? What if unraveling this truth meant confronting more than what was between Amanda and her? And for a moment, she felt the teetering balance of possibility and danger swaying on the edge of revelation. What if the love she thought she had never truly revealed itself? The stars flickered above, seemingly eager to witness her next steps. Whatever she chose, it would surely lead her down a path she hardly dared imagine. Absorbing that thought, she took a step back, feeling the air thrum with anticipation. Maybe, she whispered, I need to explore the depths of my heart before I can settle on anything. And with that, a question emerged vividly in her mind. How deep would she have to delve to find her truth? The wind stirred gently as Sarah stood amidst the tension, uncertainty clinging to her like a second skin. Jake's frustration was palpable, tightening the air around them. She could see the struggle in his eyes, the way he wrestled with not just the silence but also the reality of being so close, yet so far. What do you need to figure out? He pressed, trying to keep his voice steady but failing. I mean, what will it take for you to know if I'm worth it? Sarah's heart sank. Jake was everything she thought she wanted. Stability, predictability. Yet Amanda had a wild spark that ignited something in her she dared not touch. The risk of returning to the past was equal parts enticing and terrifying. Without thinking, she took a few steps toward Amanda. You stood by me when I was at my lowest, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. But I don't know whether I'm clinging to a dead memory or rekindling something alive. Amanda held Sarah's gaze, her expression softening, revealing a glimmer of hope. Sometimes the dead can be resurrected if we're brave enough. But it's not just about me. It's about you knowing what feels right. You deserve that clarity. Jake shifted his weight, a frown deepening as he watched them. And what if going back leaves you lost again? He challenged, arms crossed. You'll be back to square one, and I'll be the one left behind wondering why I bothered trying. The comment struck Sarah, and she winced. She didn't want to hurt Jake, especially not when he seemed to offer her so much. But the thrill of possibility and the pull of an old flame was stronger. What does love look like for me? She thought, glancing at the stars that dotted the sky, winking like a secret only she could uncover. I can't pretend I don't still wonder about you, Sarah said, turning back to Amanda. What we had was intense. It rocked me to my core. I felt it too, Amanda replied, an honesty in her voice that cracked through the tension. But it's different now, I assent it. We're different now. This isn't just a reunion. It's a reckoning. Sarah felt a wave of emotion wash over her. Reckoning. It was the perfect word. She spent so much time hiding from her past that she lost touch with who she truly was. The answers she sought weren't only about her choices regarding Jake or Amanda, but about confronting her own heart. Maybe love is about facing the uncomfortable, she murmured, stepping even closer to Amanda. Jake's silence spoke volumes. The realization that Sarah's heart still turned to Amanda made him uneasy. So what will it be, Sarah? He asked, his voice cracking slightly. Do I get any say in this, or am I just another chapter in your story? The lump in Sarah's throat tightened as she thought about how far she had ventured into this emotional maze. You're not just a chapter, Jake. You're part of my story. Jake seemed to want to protest but fell silent. The anguish etched across his face painfully clear. Maybe I need to bring my past into my present, she said, taking a deep breath, to make sense of what love can really mean for me. Amanda's expression brightened slightly. Good. That means reaching deep, even if it feels complicated. As the night wrapped around them, a flicker of intrigue filled the air. Taking the leap, Sarah thought, would mean exposing the layers of my history I've buried. What if facing these feelings could lead to something unexpected? A persistent whisper nudged her mind, but the risk felt imminent. As she stood there, a part of her wanted to run. Can I embrace this unknown? She wondered, a chill racing down her spine at the possibility ahead. Not getting the answer she wanted formed a knot in her stomach. Then, a sudden call from across the park shattered the quiet, drawing all their gazes. Hey, Sarah, you've got to see this. Jolted from their intense moment, they turned to see a group of friends waving, energy bubbling around them. It was a welcome distraction, yet it ignited a deeper question within Sarah. What did she truly want to run toward, and what might she need to leave behind? Maybe the answer is out. They're waiting for me, she thought, her heart racing as excitement mixed with anxiety. Little did she know, the gathering crowd held unexpected revelations that would change everything. What would Sarah do when confronted with choices she never anticipated? What truths awaited? The noise of laughter and chatter swelled, pulling Sarah away from the heavy moment with Jake and Amanda. The warmth of familiarity surrounded her as her friends beckoned. Their faces lit up with excitement. It felt like a lifeline thrown across a turbulent sea. Come on. You're missing it, one friend shouted, a grin wide enough to showcase the thrill of shared secrets. Sarah glanced back at Jake and Amanda. Their expressions mirrored her internal strife, curiosity mixed with uncertainty. What do you want to do? Amanda asked softly, her voice steady. It was the kind of question that begged for honesty, cutting through the noise swirling around them. I don't know, Sarah admitted, squeezing her eyes shut for a brief moment. I'm still figuring out everything. Then let us see what the commotion is, Jake suggested, his frustration ever so slightly muted. Maybe it'll help. With a deep breath, Sarah took the plunge. She turned, allowing the upbeat rhythm from her friends to pull her closer. As they walked, she tried to focus on the moment, the laughter, the joy, but her mind flickered between the past and present like an old film reel. Arriving at the gathering, Sarah noticed a small group clustered around a park bench. At the center was a figure she recognized. Tom, an old acquaintance, was animatedly telling a story, his hands flying in the air, punctuating his punchlines. Look who it is, Tom exclaimed, his eyes spotting Sarah. Sarah, you won't believe what I just found. What is it? She asked, intrigued despite herself. The familiar spark in his voice tugged at her attention. Tom leaned closer, lowering his voice conspiratorially. Remember that old thrift shop we hit up last summer? I snagged a football signed by the local team. But that's not the best part. I might found something even juicier. Listen up. As he spun his tale, Sarah allowed herself to be swept away. The energy around her was infectious. Laughter and playful banter resumed, and for a moment, Her worries about Jake and Amanda faded. She felt lighter, momentarily free from both expectation and fear. But just as she was beginning to immerse herself in the joy, Sarah caught sight of Jake standing a few feet away, his gaze fixed on her. There was a flicker of something in his eyes. Was it hope or sadness? She couldn't tell. It tugged at her heart, reiterating the battle she was trying to navigate. "Your turn, Sarah. Let us see what you can do." Another friend called out, snapping her back to the present. "Do I have to?" She laughed. But inside, she felt a rush of adrenaline. "Simon, show us something." Before she could think twice, the urge to jump in took hold. She stepped forward, arms poised as if to share a secret of her own. Yet, as she stood there, a flicker of doubt pricked her mind. What if I'm just running from the truth? In that moment, she spotted Amanda again. The way Amanda smiled at her, fierce yet tender, sent a shiver down Sarah's spine. It was as if the moment crystallized everything she knew about her feelings, about love, felt as fragile as a glass blown fragile, waiting to shatter. Okay, she finally laughed, raising her hands. "I'll share a story, but you have to promise not to laugh too hard at the old me." As she launched into her story, something shifted within her. Sharing felt honest, exhilarating, and terrifying all at once. Her voice rang out, mingling with the laughter and cheers, and for the first time, Sarah felt a thrill of empowerment amid the chaos. But as she finished, the crowd erupted in applause, punctuated by a soft call from behind her. "Sarah, wait!" Her heart dropped. The tone was urgent. Was it Jake? Or Amanda? Turning around, she braced herself for what might come next. The weight of her decisions pressed upon her, and suddenly, the air felt electric. What awaited her this time? Would she be ready to face what was hidden deep within? Sarah turned slowly, anticipation swirling in her chest. As she scanned the gathered crowd, her eyes landed on Jake. He stepped forward, his expression a mix of determination and timidity. "Sarah, can we talk?" he urged, his voice barely above a whisper, but somehow cutting through the laughter like a knife. The world around her paused, as if waiting for her answer. Her friends exchanged glances, sensing the intensity lurking beneath the light-hearted atmosphere. Yeah, sure," she replied, her voice shaky. She was aware of the weight that hung in the air, heavy with longing and unresolved emotions. Jake motioned for her to follow him to a quieter corner of the park. As they moved away from the crowd, Sarah felt a mix of anxiety and excitement. Part of her wanted to flee. The other part was already beating wildly in her chest, craving confrontation. Once they were out of earshot, he turned to face her. "I couldn't let you leave without saying something." He cleared his throat, his hands crammed tightly into his pockets. "After everything we've been through, I want you to know I care about you, more than just friends." Her heart raced as she searched his face, looking for reassurance. She recalled the flicker in his eyes earlier, the blend of hope and sadness. They had been through too much to disregard their history now, but the questions loomed heavy. "Jake, this is a lot," she admitted, her voice wavering. "I know, but what we had before, it wasn't just a phase for me," he pressed, desperation tinging his words. "I don't want to let that slip away without giving it another chance. You and me, it could be different this time." Her mind raced. She had once believed in that dream, had dreamed of a future together, filled with laughter and shared ambitions. Yet, things had changed since then. The turmoil of the past few months weighed heavily on her heart. "Jake, what if we don't fit that way anymore?" she asked softly, dread creeping into her voice. "Then we'll figure it out," he replied earnestly, stepping closer. "But let me try, Sarah. We owe it to ourselves to see if we can make it work." Just as Sarah was about to respond, a voice cut through the tension, a familiar one, stronger and bravely assertive. "Jake, maybe you shouldn't." Amanda stood a few paces behind, her expression a complex mix of resolve and concern. "Just hear me out," Jake continued, glancing at Amanda and then back to Sarah. "I regret not telling you this. I want to be with you, but I need to know if you feel the same." The air turned thick around them. Sarah's mind spiraled, the possibilities and fears colliding in her chest. Would pursuing this relationship change everything they had built over the years? Could she risk the dynamic with Amanda as well? Sarah, Amanda said, her tone gentle but firm. Just think about what you want. No one's rushing you. A deafening silence followed, the cacophony of laughter from their friends fading into the background. Sarah's gaze shifted between the two, her spirit caught in a whirlwind of emotions: love, loyalty, fear, and longing. Okay, please let me think, she finally said, her voice trembling. Her heart ached to find clarity amid the chaos of feelings stirring within her. But an inner voice screamed that she couldn't delay facing the truth any longer. As they stood there, the decision fledged in her heart beneath layers of uncertainty. She couldn't shake the creeping feeling that something unexpected was unfolding just around the corner. What was it that needed to be uncovered? Would Sarah discover more than just her feelings for Jake? Or was there a piece of her past waiting to resurface, potentially shattering everything she thought she knew? Sarah took a deep breath, her thoughts a cacophony in her mind. She didn't want to hurt anyone, but the emotions whirling inside her felt like a tidal wave ready to crash. Jake's hopeful gaze and Amanda's protective stance were both fierce in their own ways, but the truth was still cloaked in uncertainty. What's wrong? Amanda's voice broke through her thoughts, pulling Sarah back to the moment. It was like being under the surface of a pool, fighting to come up for air. She glanced at her friend, feeling a sudden surge of guilt mixed with confusion. Nothing, just everything, Sarah stammered, running her fingers through her hair. I don't want to mess this up. Mess what up? Jake asked, taking a small step forward, trying to close the gap between them, physically and emotionally. Her pulse quickened. Our friendship. It's been so great for so long. What if this changes it all? Or what if it makes it better? He raised an eyebrow, pressing for an answer, desperate for her to see his side. Amanda cleared her throat, the sound small yet significant. Jake's not wrong, Sarah. But you need to look into your own heart first. Don't just answer because you feel pressured. Sarah sighed. The weight of Amanda's words sank in deeper than she expected. She could feel the morning sun wrapping around them, promising a warmer day, but her heart felt cold and heavy. What did she really want? Images of previous summers flashed in her mind. Lazy days at the lake, spontaneous road trips, nights filled with laughter around a fire. All of those moments had been filled with unspoken feelings, especially between her and Jake. But what if going back to that just meant more heartbreak? I need some space to think, Sarah finally said, her words even steadying her racing heart. I can't make a decision right now. Each face registered her words differently. Amanda nodded slowly, the understanding evident in her eyes, but Jake's face fell, shadows sweeping through the sunshine. That's fair, he said, but she could hear the disappointment creeping through his voice. They stood in silence, the distance between them now feeling like a chasm. Sarah found herself drawn to the sounds of laughter nearby, distant yet comforting. She took another deep breath, thinking about escaping to those familiar sounds, feeling the warmth of friendship wrap around her like a blanket. Maybe we can revisit this after today? Jake suggested, his voice softer, more vulnerable now. Yeah, sure, she replied, but whether she was talking to him or herself remained unclear. As they turned to walk back to the crowd, Sarah's heart pounded unsteadily. She glanced at Amanda, whose expression was a mixture of sympathy and reassurance. But Sarah knew she had stepped into a complicated territory. What would happen once they returned to their friends? How would she handle Jake's anticipation balancing against her own unresolved feelings? But before she could lose herself in her thoughts, something caught her eye, a movement from beyond the park, where shadows met the tree line. It was odd, and Sarah felt a shiver of instinct, one that compelled her to look closer. Amanda paused, catching Sarah's gaze. What is it? I don't know, Sarah answered, her heart racing again. But I think we need to see. With a pull of curiosity, she took a few tentative steps toward the edge of the park, a nagging sense that whatever was unfolding was not just about her feelings for Jake, but perhaps intertwined with something deeper, part of her past she thought she had left behind. Was it merely coincidence? Or was fate tapping her shoulder, urging her to confront what she had tried to forget. The question loomed in her heart as she stepped closer to the uncertain. As Sarah walked toward the tree line, her heart raced, driven by a mix of curiosity and dread. The shadows danced between the branches, casting strange shapes in the fading light. Jake and Amanda trailed behind her, their expressions a blend of apprehension and intrigue. What lay ahead felt significant, like a thread weaving through the fabric of her life. "Wait," Jake murmured, a hesitant tone edging his voice. "We should really stick together." But Sarah felt an irresistible pull towards the unknown, a part of her that longed to uncover truths she had buried. "Maybe we can find answers here," she said, glancing back at them, her determination sparking her words. She stepped forward, and her friends followed suit, albeit uncertainly. The Trilene whispered secrets as they advanced. And then, as if the universe had orchestrated a moment just for her, a figure stepped into the clearing. Sarah's pulse quickened. The familiar outline struck her like lightning. Tyler, her old high school crush. "What the?" she breathed, taking a step back. "Sarah?" Tyler echoed, stepping forward, his surprise clear. "Is that really you?" A wave of emotions flooded over her past dreams, mingled with current realities. The memories of admiration and longing rushed back, a bittersweet reminder of the girl she once was. "Tyler, what are you doing here?" she asked, disbelief thickening her voice. "I was just passing through. I heard about the fundraiser and thought I'd drop by." His eyes flickered between Sarah, Jake, and Amanda but settled on her with an intensity that made her heart flutter. "Perfect timing," Amanda remarked, breaking the tension. "We could use a new perspective." "Really?" Tyler raised an eyebrow, his gaze shifting from Amanda's teasing look to Sarah's uncertain expression. "What's the scoop?" The air thickened with awkwardness. Sarah felt the familiar tug-of-war within her soul, the past and present colliding like waves crashing on a shore. She instinctively glanced toward Jake, who stood a step back, his expression revealing a flicker of unease. "It's complicated," she finally said, her voice quiet but steady. "Tyler, it's good to see you," but Jake's voice broke through, guarded yet calm. "What were you two talking about back in high school?" Sarah watched as Tyler's eyes narrowed slightly, a hint of annoyance flashing through. "Just old times, man," Tyler replied, a slight edge in his tone. "Nothing to worry about." But Sarah's heart cried out for honesty. "We need to talk about what this means for all of us." A beat of silence stretched. Jake nodded, visibly more relaxed, but still tense. Amanda stood resolutely beside Sarah, eyebrows raised, waiting for her to lead the conversation. "I never meant to run away from anything," Sarah started, drawing in a breath that felt like it would remove the air from the clearing. "I don't want to repeat old mistakes, but I can't ignore who I am now. You both matter to me." Tyler stepped forward, his gaze softening. "Then let us figure out how to move forward together. We're older now. Maybe it's time to write a new chapter." Each word hit like a drumbeat in her chest. He was right. Maybe it was time to dig deep and stop tiptoeing around her fears. "I want to know what each of you means in my life," Sarah said, feeling newfound courage blossom in her spirit. "Yet I need clarity. I can't keep living in uncertainty." The three of them exchanged glances, an unspoken understanding beginning to form. It was raw and honest, but above all, it was necessary. From behind her, Amanda said, her voice firm yet gentle, "I'll support whatever decision you make, Sarah. I just want you to choose you first." "I agree," Jake said, a flicker of hope rekindling in his eyes. "Your happiness comes first. I don't know if I can find all the answers today, or if I even have the strength yet," Sarah confessed. "But I think I'm starting to realize that I can explore this messy love triangle without fear." A sense of empowerment washed over her. Each person played a unique role in her journey, but now the focus had to shift inward. What if I choose to embrace love, without defining it? What if I let it unfold naturally? "Then we'll be here," Tyler said, a supportive nod wrapping around his words. "To make this work." She glanced at Jake and Amanda. They wore expressions of hope mixed with understanding. She finally felt seen truly and genuinely. As the sun dipped below the trees, casting long shadows across the ground. Sarah took a deep breath, filling her lungs with possibilities. She could feel the weight of her past lighten, revealing paths leading to a future where she could truly embrace the chaos of love. Together, they stepped back into the lively laughter swirling around the park, and at that moment, Sarah felt as though she was no longer lost. She was ready to explore the depths of her heart, celebrating all that love could be, not constrained by past definitions, but freed by openness and authenticity. Maybe the truth isn't something I need to know immediately, she thought, glancing at her companions. But it's something I can discover step by step. And together, they walked on, ready for whatever beauty awaited them at the end of the road. Now, it's your turn to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, so we can keep these stories alive. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this emotional ending, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible transformation. This is the moment to show your support, and remember, don't wait not even one more second to share your love for our channel.